So, Nora, we're diving into making movie stars, Hollywood's machine. And honestly, when you think about it, it wasn't just like finding someone pretty, right? It was a whole system. How did they even find these people?
Oh, Mark, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, it wasn't just a beauty contest, though sometimes it felt like it. Studios had these elaborate talent scouting networks. They weren't just looking in New York or LA. It had scouts in small towns across America, even in Europe. They'd watch Broadway shows, community theater, even high school plays. But it wasn't just acting ability. They were looking for it. That elusive star quality, that undeniable screen presence. Like someone could be a decent actor, but did they photograph well? Did they have that certain something that just like drew your eye to them? It was super specific, super targeted. They were looking for a type, but also someone malleable enough to be shaped.
Malleable. Yeah, I get that. So it wasn't just someone walking into a studio and being discovered on a whim, like the Lana Turner story, right? That's more myth than reality.
Exactly. I mean, the Lana Turner story about Schwab's pharmacy, it's iconic, it's romantic, but it's largely apocryphal. While it could happen, usually there was a scout involved, a connection. Studios had entire departments dedicated to like finding potential. They'd hold screen tests for dozens, sometimes hundreds of hopefuls, looking for that one in a million. It was like a full-time job for so many people just to find that raw talent. And then the real work began after they found them. Okay, so once they found this raw talent, the studio machine would just like kick in. It wasn't just, here's your contract, go act. Oh no, they'd put them through a complete transformation. Think about it. Name changes, Lucy Ann Johnson becomes Lauren Bacall, Archibald Leach becomes Cary Grant. It was about creating an entirely new, marketable identity. And then the physical stuff, oh my gosh.
Right, so like a new name, but also what else? I've heard stories about dental work, even breaking noses sometimes to improve them. Is that true?
Absolutely true. I mean, it's wild, but yeah. Studios would fix teeth, change hairstyles, even dictate weight and diet. They had their own resident hairdressers, makeup artists, publicists, even doctors. They'd teach them how to walk, how to talk, how to sit. Like they were literally manufacturing a persona. They'd send them to acting classes, vocal coaches, dancing lessons. It was like a charm school on steroids. For someone to become a star, they had to fit this very specific, very glamorous mold that the studio envisioned. Every single detail, from their posture to their laugh, was meticulously crafted. It wasn't just natural, it was like engineered beauty and charm. It's really incredible when you think about it.
So they've got a new name, a new look, but then what about their story? Because I remember like reading about how studios would invent backstories for their stars. Was that just part of the charm school or something more manipulative?
Oh, it was absolutely more manipulative, Mark. Manipulative in the sense of like total image control. The studio publicity departments were incredible. They'd craft these elaborate, often completely fabricated backstories. For example, Rock Hudson, a huge matinee idol, was gay, and the studio absolutely couldn't have that out. So they arranged his marriage to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates. It was a complete sham, just to maintain his heterosexual masculine appeal. And they'd feed these stories to fan magazines, like controlled interviews, carefully staged photo shoots, engineered romances between co-stars to generate buzz. It was all about creating an aspirational, flawless, slightly unattainable image. They had to be perfect on screen and off. It was less about who they were and more about who the public thought they were. Do you know what I mean? like a carefully constructed illusion.
Wow. So they really controlled everything, right down to their personal lives, even love lives, just to sell tickets.
Totally. I mean, it was relentless. Studios would literally put moral clauses in contracts dictating how stars could behave in public. They couldn't be seen with the wrong people, couldn't have any hint of scandal. Judy Garland, for instance, was like put on studio-prescribed diet pills and kept under such tight control, her whole life was mapped out. It was all to protect the brand, the valuable brand that was Judy Garland. It's pretty dark when you think about it. And then we get to the contracts, Mark, and this is where the machine aspect really becomes clear. These weren't just simple employment agreements. They were like ironclad 7-year contracts, often with options for renewal. The studios owned these stars, essentially. They controlled every aspect of their professional lives.
7-year contracts? So, like, once you signed, you were pretty much, their property for a long time, huh?
Exactly. It was a take it or leave it deal. The studios could dictate which films they'd be in, even if the star hated the script or the director. They could loan them out to other studios, sometimes for a much higher fee than the star was actually making, and the star would have no say. Their salaries were often kept relatively low, especially in the beginning, while the studio reaped massive profits from their image and work. And those moral clauses, they extended into their personal lives too. Stars could be suspended without pay if they stepped out of line, according to the studio's rigid code. It was total control over their careers and even their private existence.
Wow. So, even if they became hugely famous, they couldn't, like, really leverage that fame to negotiate better terms? They were just, locked in.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they'd get raises, sure, but the studio still held all the cards. Breaking a contract was incredibly difficult, incredibly expensive, and could blacklist a star. Most just endured it. It was the price of stardom.
So, the star is made, they're under contract, their image is perfect. Now, how do the studios actually sell that? Because it's not just about making a movie, right? It's about selling the star with the movie.
Oh, absolutely. That's the whole point of the machine, Mark. The stars were like the biggest asset. Studios would literally build entire films around them. They'd handpick projects specifically designed to showcase a star's established persona or introduce a new facet of it. Think of like the musical vehicles for Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, or the dramatic roles for Bette Davis. Then came the marketing blitz, huge premieres, cross-country publicity tours, where the stars would make personal appearances, radio interviews, newspaper spreads. The studios ensured their stars were everywhere, constantly reinforcing that carefully crafted image. The star wasn't just an actor, they were a brand, a household name you trusted, you adored. And audiences would flock to see a Greta Garbo picture or a John Wayne film, regardless of the specific plot, because they were invested in the star. It was incredibly effective, selling that dream.
It's like they were pre-selling the movie just by putting the star's name on it. Like, come see our star.
Exactly. And the studio owned that brand, so all that loyalty, all that box office success, it all flowed back to them. They created these icons, and then they capitalized on them to unimaginable degrees. It was like an incredibly smart, albeit ruthless, business model for decades. And it's still fascinating to see how remnants of that, still exist in Hollywood today, even with agents and more star power. The foundational idea of building and selling a personality, it's still there.